Today we are going to be ranking all of the armors in 7 Days to Die. These are the completion bonuses for each of the sets, which will be ranked separately, and then all of the armor pieces themselves will also be ranked separately as well. Let's get this started with the most obvious one, which is primitive armor. It's the worst armor in the game. It has no bonus effects. It just goes straight into E for the full outfit. Now, it's not terrible. You do actually get solid damage resistance from it early on, and at the very start of the game you should always make the full set, because you will just reduce all the damage you take by about a third, and that's not insubstantial. But obviously, compared to literally everything else, it's pretty useless. It doesn't have any bonus effects whatsoever. Next light armor we're going to cover is the Lumberjack armor. The Lumberjack helmet, while not incredibly useful as a actual combat helmet, gives you 50% more wood harvested at level 6. Straight away, that's just S tier. That is a flat 50% increase to all the wood that you find completely. The Lumberjack chest piece, I'm going to put tentatively at B tier because it's light armor, so it has very low damage resistance compared to medium or heavy, but it gives you up to 10 extra inventory slots, and that's really nice for some people who really have a hard time getting pocket mods, or people like me who absolutely despise the pack mule perk. Lumberjack gloves are going to go firmly in D tier for me. They're light armored and all they do is give you up to a base 15 damage with an axe. It's a very niche use to have axes have bonus damage, and on any high difficulty at all where you care about the damage, you shouldn't be using an axe because they have no utility combat effects whatsoever. Then we have Lumberjack boots, which reduce the amount of stamina you use when sprinting by 20%. That is a solid effect, and they are light armor. I'm going to give those a C tier. So the Lumberjack armor is kind of spread out. Now, the Lumberjack full set bonus is to give you double wood when harvesting and use 30% less stamina when using axes and chainsaws. Getting double wood harvest again is just a really powerful thing. It's unfortunate, of course, that you have to deal with the other pieces of the armor here to get that, but again, if you're trying to minimize the amount of time you spend harvesting, or if you really like harvesting and you just want to get the most out of it, then the Lumberjack completion bonus is going to be an S tier. Moving on to Preacher. Preacher hat gives you 20% cheaper discounts at the trader, only when buying, of course. That is a solid A tier bonus. 20% cheaper items is really good. The Preacher outfit gives you a 15% reduced damage from zombies. This works like pain tolerance rather than armor rating, which is good in some ways, bad in other ways. This will be calculated after your armor rating, which means if you happen to already have a really high 70% armor rating with the rest of your gear, this isn't going to save you a lot of damage even on the highest difficulties. But for light armors, if you want to wear a piece of light armor and have the best protection possible, it's going to be this or Enforcer, so for that I will also put that in B tier. Now, the Preacher gloves. Quite frankly, quite honestly, we need a new tier. Unbelievably powerful. There's basically no reason to use anything else unless you're fighting bears or like mountain lions and stuff, which is a fairly niche part of the game. They are quite simply the best. They give you a 60% bonus damage to zombies. It's unbelievably powerful. And then we come to Preacher boots, which give you treated injuries healing 20% faster. That is solid. That is an underrated effect, and it's really unique. The Preacher gloves, I think there's another armor item that has a similar effect. Put those in A tier. Those are solid. The only downside to them is just their light armor, and I would always want heavier armor if possible, personally, for my playstyle. And then the completion bonus is reducing your chance of critical injuries by 40% and chance of infection by up to 100%. We can put the Preacher combo in like a high A tier. It's really good if you're wearing Preacher armor. It's like that extra layer of like a nice effect, but it's not game changing, and you do have to wear full light armor to achieve it. If you were just wearing heavy armor or medium armor instead, you would probably have a similar level of survivability. But in terms of survivability, Preacher is the best light armor for that, I would say. Which brings us to Rogue. The Rogue hood gives you 20% higher loot stage. That's pretty good. Sometimes a 20% boost to your loot stage is solid. It's not going to have a huge effect. You're maybe thinking like a level 5 pump action instead of a level 4. That's something though. That is a benefit. For that, I think I'll give it a C. Loot stage isn't the biggest thing ever. The Rogue outfit gives you 30% better sneaking and lets you move 20% faster while sneaking, while producing less noise and hiding quicker. That is a very good effect. I think that's worthy of an A tier if you're going for a stealth build, but the problem is there's just a better version of that I'll get to later. The Rogue gloves reduce your lockpicking time and lockpick break chance by 20%. That's a solid one. Definitely a good thing to at least have a set of available. The issue is you could just go for mining instead and have an easier time of it, so I think I'll put that at high B. Rogue boots increase your safe falling height by 6 meters. Pretty much every boot that has that effect in this is just going to be put in like E tier, because the safe falling height thing isn't worth crafting a level 6 item over. There's a lot of ways to reduce your fall damage in 7 Days to Die. Being competent is the biggest one. That doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. The final one is to find 30% more cash and dukes in loot. Hey, if that's what you're role-playing as, great. How much cash and dukes do you actually find in this game? You have to hunt down ATMs to make use of that, and even then you don't get that much cash. You should really be spending your time doing something else. If you want to make cash faster, it would be better to go for salvaging and selling the things you get. So this is going to get like a C tier completion bonus. Now for the athletic hat. So this one gives you a 20% better deal when buying food, drinks, and drugs. 20%? There's no reason to use that over an item that gives you a broader purchase thing. Like, there's no reason to use the athletic hat over the preacher hat. They have the same discount. And food, drinks, and drugs aren't really things you buy from traders all that often. You buy the drugs, drinks, and food from vending machines, and this doesn't work on vending machines to my knowledge. If it does, then I will slightly correct my answer and be like, this is a B tier, but assuming it doesn't, and I can't be bothered testing it, that's like an E tier, and it's light armor as well, so it's eh. Athletic outfit gives you plus 20 health. That's solid. You can't go wrong with that. A bit of light armor with extra survivability goes right next to the preacher outfit, I think. The athletic gloves give you up to 50 more stamina. Again, that's another solid effect. I think I'll put that in B tier. And the athletic boots being light armor and giving you extra run speed for the right playstyle, that is also very solid. I think I'll put that in B tier as well. The completion bonus is to regen health with 60% less food and water, and that is utter ass. And I'll tell you why it's utter ass. There is a singular item in the game that has the exact same effect, so why would you ever go for the completion effect? You could wear, that's actually crazy to me, I've just realized this. You could wear the athletic outfit, gloves and boots, and then wear a nomad helmet, and you would have the exact same effect, except you wouldn't be able to get cheaper food and drugs, and you would have extra armor. So why does this even exist? I'm going to put it above that, because this just doesn't even have a bonus, but this practically has no bonus. Which brings us to enforcer glasses, which are buying and selling prices for 20%, which makes them just the undisputed best trading goggles in the game. Why would you use any other one? At least the preacher is like purchasing. The enforcer outfit is extra crit resist. I think we come to the same thing of chest piece with extra survivability. I would rather have the extra crit resist over any of these. Enforcer gloves, 20% less vehicle fuel. Look, if you're completely min-maxing this, there's no reason not to have them, so top tier. And then we have enforcer shoes, which are exactly the same, basically, as the athletic running shoes. So we'll just put those right next to them. Now then, the full set bonus is that your 44 ammo does 50% more damage, and the 44 weapons reload 50% faster. The problem with that is that preacher gloves give you 60% more damage. So why would you not just wear preacher gloves instead of getting completion bonus here? You could easily survive in combat without enforcer gloves because it has no combat benefit, and then wear enforcer shoes, enforcer outfit, and the enforcer glasses have no combat benefit again. I really dislike how many of the outfits are sort of mixed between combat effectiveness and utility effectiveness, because the ones that are really good at combat I'm going to use in combat, the ones that are mixed I'm not. The 50% faster reload on magnums and desert vultures is cool, and I'm going to try and rank these in a sense where I view them largely on their own merit, not just compared to like the preacher gloves and stuff. So if the preacher gloves didn't exist, then where would the enforcer outfit live on this list? That's a pretty solid effect. 50% more damage with 44 weapons plus 50% faster reload is worth having. It's just you would really prefer to have preacher gloves if you were min-maxing it. It's only a 10% damage difference though, and if you are role-playing this sort of enforcer character with the magnums, it's a must-have, right? You get to have the full enforcer outfit and you get a massive damage boost. I just don't see the practical use for most players because most people aren't really role-playing. Which brings us to medium armors. Starting out with the farmer hat. The farmer hat will give you 20% more common seed loot in containers. Yeah, that's not going to help you farm that much. Now, the farmer outfit, you get a 100% chance of receiving an extra crop. That's solid if you are using farming, so I will put that sort of in the middle of B tier. Now here we come to one of the worst gloves in the game, the farmer gloves. I know I said I wanted to rank things without necessarily comparing them to things that already exist, but there are so many gloves that are better than the farming gloves because they just give you a 20% damage boost with rifles. There is no reason at all to use that over the commando gloves, which give you a 50% bonus with all ranged damage. There's no reason to use it compared to the preacher gloves, which give you a 60% damage against zombies. It's genuinely, completely and utterly useless compared to everything else. So it's going to get another E tier here. And the farmer boots give you a 20% chance of getting an extra seed. That's always really helpful. That's probably similar in usefulness to the outfit, because if you think about it this way, every 5 crops you break with the farmer outfit, you get 5 extra crops. 5 crops equals 1 seed, and on average, every 5 plants you break with the farmer boots, which are these, you get 1 seed. So they actually have a very similar economic effect, if you want to think about it that way, in that they both give you an extra seed every 5 things you break. I will put the boots slightly lower just because the food is more versatile to actually get the 5 food items, which you can then turn into seeds if you want. And then the completion bonus, food and drink heals 40% more health. That's a really good effect. It's just a shame the rest of the armor's useless. Well, not useless, it's just a shame the rest of the armor is something you will put on while farming and never use again. I would say if you're min-maxing, that's actually a really solid effect you might want to go after later on so that you can maximize how much your food does, but it's not really the most practical thing ever, so I'm going to put it in B tier as far as effects go, because it's not really going to be a game changer for you. It's just a nice thing for your farmer player to have, which brings us to the biker gear. So we get 20% stun resistance with the biker helmet. You'll also get that with the ranger helmet, and again, if you compare that to another helmet, it is kind of shitty, but if we consider it on its own, 20% stun resistance is solid. Extra survivability on medium armor, we'll put that in B tier. Biker outfit, medium armor, 20 extra health, the definition of B tier, right? Like just good armor, good extra health, solid. Biker gloves, 60% more melee damage is a really, really powerful effect. Again, just would preacher gloves be better? Yes, in most cases. However, I'll give it the top of S tier. If you're doing a melee build, you can wear those and they will be the same as preacher gloves. And then biker boots is 20% less stamina to swing. That's a very versatile one that has a lot of uses beyond just combat, of course, because it's just any kind of melee weapon. And I will give those a sort of solid B tier as well. And then the completion bonus for biker is actually quite nice. You get 6 armor points, and mini bikes and motorcycles use 20% less fuel. So that's a nice one for role playing. You can wear the biker armor and actually be better at using bikes. The extra 6 points of armor rating is not to be ignored. That's 3 banded armor plates, which is solid. You can get some very, very high damage resistance out of full biker gear, and it's a really good combination. I'm going to give that sort of a upper S tier as well, because it's a really good synergy for a medium armor kit and like a melee playthrough. I think it definitely deserves some recognition there. Come to the scavenger hat. Salvaging gives you 60% more experience. It's a solid effect. We'll put that in a low C tier. The scavenger outfit is basically the lumberjack outfit but with more armor, so I'm just going to put it a little bit ahead of it. The scavenger, that was in B tier by the way, the scavenger gloves give you 30% extra chance of an extra resource. I'm not 100% sure of the maths of how that works. Extra stuff when salvaging is always good, and if you are salvaging, you will want to put that on, so I'll chuck that up by the lumberjack helmet. Just makes sense. And the scavenger boots, 40% less stamina to swing with salvaging. Again, another solid one. You will want to put that on when salvaging, so it gets an S tier as well. The full set bonus is a 20% increase to your loot stage. That's ass, because you could just wear the rogue hood, and you could wear the rest of the salvaging gear and have the exact same effects, so we're going to just chuck that like down here. We come to the ranger helmet, which is pretty much exactly the same as the glasses, so it comes down to style. Are you a glasses guy or are you a hat guy? I am the desert ranger, so I will be putting the cowboy hat before the glasses. The ranger outfit is identical to the biker armor again, so it's just going to go directly ahead of the biker outfit for me because I prefer the outfit, but it's the same. The ranger gloves give you 50% more damage with revolvers and lever actions. Again, it's like, why would you not just use the commando gloves, which will give you the exact same effect? But at the very least, it is a very high damage difference. If you are going for the cowboy playstyle, it's solid. It's a good combat boost, but it's not going to be better than a lot of other things that give you damage boosts. And the ranger boots give you 60 more stamina. That is another sort of like definition of B tier. It's a solid stamina boost on medium armor. You can't go wrong with it. It's always a good boot choice. I think I prefer it to the stamina reduction of the boots. I'm not really sure of the maths on that, so feel free to interchange those two ones in B there. And I think I'm going to put the chest pieces ahead of them. I just think that's better. And I think I'm going to move the farmer outfit combo like way down to the bottom of B tier. Then, oh, and we need to get the completion bonus for Ranger. Oh wait, I placed the completion bonus for Ranger, but I didn't place the gloves. Yeah, sorry, that was weird. Let's take that out. Ranger gloves, where are you? Yeah, Ranger gloves should have been wherever that was. The completion bonus for Rangers is increased reload speed for revolvers and lever actions by 50%. They've essentially split the thing from the Enforcer effect. That just means I'm going to put it like a little bit lower than Preacher. It is just purely a reload speed bonus that I can definitely live without in favor of something else. Right, Commando helmet is identical to the Biker helmet in every single way, except it looks kind of cooler to me. Commando outfit is the same effect as the Preacher boots, except I think it's all critical injuries, not just treated critical injuries, so it gets a bit better because it's got more armor, and it also works on more injuries, so that's an A tier. Commando gloves, 50% more damage with all ranged weapons. I mean, that's, if you're not using Preacher gloves, you should probably be using that. So the very top of S tier, or even I'll put it at the very bottom of the Preacher gloves tier, because you should always be using the Preacher gloves over it, but it is a solid second choice. And then the Commando boots are just a run speed boost, but they're medium armor, so why would you not just use lighter boots, unless you were really trying to go for the completion effect. Those will go next to whatever the last run speed boost one was, which was Enforcer shoes. Where did I put Enforcer shoes? I believe that's them here, yeah. So I'll put them actually below these two, because you would want to be faster if you're going for faster, right? That's at B tier. So for the Commando bonus, it just says recovery items work 50% faster, and that was too broad for my liking. I've deduced in the game that it essentially works like the Preacher boots, where it's for treated crit, because it's the same effect. For that, I will give the Commando completion effect a solid high A tier. I just don't know if I would want to wear the rest of the armor for it, because the helmet and the boots aren't all that amazing, and there's other things that can give you similar effects. Now to the last medium armor in the game, I think. The Assassin helmet, 60% more sneak attack damage. That is a solid like upper S tier one. Combine that with Preacher gloves, you got 120% extra damage against all zombies if you're doing sneak attacks. The Assassin outfit gives you 20% more effective sneaking, which isn't as good as the Rogue outfit, but it also gives you the movement speed, less noise, and the quicker hiding, and you get more protection, and it's part of a better armor effect altogether, so I will give that a solid middle of A tier effect. Assassin gloves give you 20% faster attack speed with agility weapons. That's solid, but it's kind of meh compared to a lot of the other damage effects you can get. Which one are these? This one. I would say it's probably similar level as the Ranger gloves, which are very kind of niche but good for what they are. Assassin boots. Sprinting while crouched makes no extra sound, so for that I will give it the low S tier. And the full set effect bonus reduces the amount of time that enemies search for you by 100% after losing sight of you. The thing to note about that is that if you have From the Shadows maxed out, they will search for you for 20 seconds. With 100% less, they will search for you for 10 seconds. That means in theory, but what it actually usually translates to is instantly. If you break line of sight, they will pretty much instantly lose sight of you, and that drastically improves the power level of stealth builds. Usually, it's going all the way up in the top of S tier here. On to heavy armor. The Miner helmet gives you 30% more materials when harvesting. That's a rank and a half of Motherload. That is an S tier. Miner outfit, 30% less stamina to swing is solid. You should always be using it if you are using a pickaxe. I just question, are you going to be using the pickaxe? So I think I'll put it sort of above the Rogue outfit. You can definitely get away with not using it if you're an Augur user. Mining tools break ore 50% faster. That's 2.5 ranks of Miner 69er. That is unbelievably high. Sorry, if I didn't say it, Miner outfit went in A tier. Miner gloves, they are going in S tier. That's just 2.5 ranks of Miner 69er for free that you just put a pair of gloves on. And then Miner boots, yeah, those are completely meh. Those are the fall damage ones. I'm going to put those right at the bottom here. And the completion bonus is tools degrading 35% slower. Really not all that worthwhile. Probably an upper C tier. Not worth wearing the Miner outfit for that. Nomad helmet. Regenerating health and stamina costs 60% less food and water. That's a solid effect if you're constantly running out of water. It's one I use a lot because it's a really good effect for heavy armor. It's just not the biggest thing ever, but it's definitely better than the athletic armor's completion effect because it comes in a helmet with more armor versus having to wear 4 pieces of armor just to get the same effect. So I'll put it at the bottom of A tier. Actually, I'll put it below these in B tier. That seems more fair. Nomad outfit, an extra carry capacity and a shitload of armor. You can't go wrong with that. We will put that above the scavenger outfit and yeah, probably above these in their utility, I'd say. I'm kind of biased as a heavy armor enjoyer, but I do often play Insane Nightmare, so you need to have like really good armor on, and I'm usually trying to counteract the effects of having light Preacher gloves on, so it makes sense. So if I'm not doing a stealth build, I probably have the Nomad chest on. The Nomad gloves, 50% extra damage to radiated zombies. It's kind of niche, because I would rather just do 50% more damage to all zombies, which is what I can get from the Commando gloves, or 60% more damage to all zombies using the Biker gloves. If I'm not mistaken though, there's a thing to note about the Nomad gloves, and that is that they actually only affect melee damage against radiated enemies. Let me double check the code for that though. Right, so the game's code doesn't say that it affects only melee weapons, so that might just be a problem of the description there. So if we just grab a level 1 wooden club and some Nomad gloves at level 6, and just to be extra sure, I also tested the Preacher gloves in the same way, and they do also work on both. We don't have to worry about that. So, the Nomad gloves are better than they seem. They just do 50% more damage to radiated enemies regardless of melee or whatever, so we will give those a solid Preacher gloves tier. Actually, we'll give them a high S tier. They're not as good as Preacher gloves, so they just do more damage to more things, but if you didn't have these, you would still be pretty happy to have Nomad gloves to do extra damage to the enemies that matter. And then Nomad boots are probably one of the worst of them because it's just run speed again, but on heavy armor this time. So why not just switch to something lighter if you want to move faster? We come to the XP boost of the Nerd goggles. We will put those... Sorry, the Nomad boots go in B tier because they're just a movement speed boost. The Nerd helmet I'm going to put in S tier for XP. It gives you 20% bonus XP on everything. Another piece of Nerd armor going in SSS tier is the Nerd outfit, which I'm going to put like up here next to the Preacher gloves. It's useless in combat, but you get a 50% chance to get an extra skill point every time you read a magazine. It can drastically increase the speed you get through the crafting progression, and I use it in every single playthrough, and I think that deserves the top of top tier alongside the Preacher gloves. Nerd gloves do 60% more damage with batons and turrets and stuff. It's the same thing as like, why would you not just use Preacher gloves? So it can get an upper S tier if we pretend the Preacher gloves don't exist, but because they do, I'm just kind of like, And the Nerd boots are just more fall damage shit, but this time heavy armor. The completion effect of the Nerd outfit is pretty much useless. It's just another degradation one, so it can go next to the Miner outfit on that one. I forgot to do Nomad. One second. Why? What is this? Oh, this, I see. This is Guns, Nerds, and Steel's like ideal combination. I think he made this tier list. Yeah, he did. I've added to it, and I added these individual armor items. This is Guns, Nerds, and Steel's personal outfit here that he uses. I think that's, well, Commando boots, Nerd helmet, Preacher gloves, Nomad chest. That is a pretty solid one. I'm not going to rank it though because that's his thing. Solid recommendation though. I wouldn't personally use the Nerd outfit for the XP though. I'd probably go with like a Nomad helmet or something just for the utility of it. Which it seems weird that I have the helmet I would rather use down in B tier and be a better helmet up here. I just think that more people will make use of this compared to this. I don't need 20% more XP in my playthrough, but using 60% less food and water when I almost never do anything for my food and water, it just makes sense for me, right? So yeah, that is a good one, but that's Guns, Nerds, and Steel's personal armor thing there. I would put that pretty solid on like upper middle S tier here. Obviously there's no actual effect bonus from wearing that, so it kind of goes also here at the same time because there's no bonus, but it is a good combo. The Nomad combo is using even less food and water. That's a fun one, but it's not super useful. I'll put that next to the helmet. With the full Nomad outfit and helmet, you'll be using 90% less food and water to regen your health and stamina. Solid if you refuse to play with the food and water mechanics like I do. And now we come to the Raider outfit. So, Raider helmet, 100% stun resistance, boom, S tier. Why? I'll tell you. Well, it's actually Preacher gloves tier. I'll put it above that as well. 100% stun resistance, first of all, means you'll never get stunned, which is really, 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 really useful. Did you know that 50% of stuns become concussions in 7 Days to Die? That's how you get the concussion effect. So not only does it make you immune to stuns, it makes you immune to concussions. The only downside it has is just the fact that you can get that from pain tolerance anyway, but who the fuck goes max pain tolerance before they get access to level 6 armors? Not me, that's for damn sure. The chest piece is critical injuries heal 50% faster regardless of if you heal them or not. That's another really, really powerful effect, and to have that on a chest piece, whereas other things would have it in either less of a magnitude or they would have it as the completion bonus, I think you give that a little bit of a high S tier here. That's one of my preferred chest pieces, that or the Nomad, depending on how I'm feeling. 50% faster crit healing just means that even if you treat it, it will still heal faster than if you didn't. The Raider gloves are exactly the same as the Biker gloves, but they have more armor, so I will give them a little bit more credit for that. And the Raider boots, unfortunately, for what is an otherwise S tier armor set, it's just more fucking fall damage. And the full set bonus is a 45% resistance to critical injuries. It's just more crit resist, the same that you get from the Enforcer outfit, but it's more powerful, and it's arguably more appropriate for a heavy armor build because you can afford to take the hits. Even with the crit resist from the Enforcer outfit, you're going to try and avoid getting hit as much as possible. Same with Preacher. Raider, doesn't matter. You've got so much armor rating, you have like 90% armor rating, and you have resistance to so many effects. That's going to be a solid S tier one as well. I'll put it low S tier because at the end of the day it is basically the same as the Enforcer chest piece or the Preacher outfit, but I do like that it is on a really heavy armor piece compared to the Enforcer. Let me know what other things you want to see me tier list in 7 Days to Die, and while you're at it, check out the ranking melee weapons or the ranking guns tier lists. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.